Goggins is not 80-20 in his workouts, is he? You know what I mean? And obviously, I'm joking here. Like, he's overboard. No one should follow what he's doing.
I don't know if you remember a couple of years back, he's talking about one of his ultras, his 200-mile races. I think he broke his fibia, whatever your calf,
something
the bone on
wild,
top of calf. He duct taped it and then did like the last 20 climbs.
That's why you had a grin, because I could see your face. But Trunk, you know what it was? There was a relay race where there was 4 people doing the race. Right? You pass it on 24 hours. But he did the relay race on his own. So that it was just him. He was the 4 people. That's why he broke his leg and broke his foot. It's ridiculous. Welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. You got Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi here. This is the Ideas That Changed Our Lives episode. We talked about this before. It was one of our most popular episodes last year. And we've been kind of teeing it up, ready to go again. So we're going to talk about that today. An idea that has influenced us and an idea that we've changed our mind on. So Trung, let's get straight into it. What is an idea that has influenced you that you want to talk about?
I'm going to ask you that first, brother. You cook on this.
Okay, I'll start. Okay.
So what idea in 2024 is new?
Yeah, I'll say, so for me, I'm just using one which I probably heard many years ago, but I think this year I felt it the most. So I think like a lot of these things, it's the midwit meme, right? Like everyone knows to do something, the simplified version, then you go up to the top and you're overthinking it and you're going deep in it, and then you land at the end basically where you were in the beginning, but you needed often to go through that journey. So this one, again, I think sounds obvious to a lot of people, but until you actually internalize it, for me, it was really this year. So it's the idea of health and happiness, 2 things we're obviously, everyone is looking for. But this one was: a healthy man wants 1,000 things, a sick man only wants one. Have you heard that one before? Woo! That's a banger, right?
Who dropped that bar, bro?
I've heard Naval say it, but I don't know if he came up with that. I'll just say it again because I think it's really important. A healthy man wants 1,000 things, a sick man only wants one. And anyone who's heard that, right, like you feel it when you've really...
Well, Bilal,
go on.
Quit. You're keeping us hanging. What's the sick person want?
Well, no, the second one, or the second, that's
what
related.
Is this? No, they want to be healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. Yeah, of course. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. That's the punchline, obviously. And you know that even when you've got a cold, right? Like even when you've got a little temperature, you're in bed for a few days. We all went through it with COVID, right? Just think of your normal day-to-day life. Oh, I need to go to the gym. I need to make my money. I need to find the perfect wife or husband. I need to rise up in my career. As soon as you got that man flu, you're like, oh man, all I want to do is go outside for a walk. Or all I want to be able to do is the normal things I do every day for most of my life. And so obviously that hits you when it's even deeper. And, I'm sure many people listening to this have either had something that's happened to them or a loved one, their parents that might have passed away, like whatever it is, everyone experiences this at some point in their lives. And until you really go to that deep level where you really have to struggle through it, it's really difficult to internalize for me. So now, without going into obviously all the details, this year has been a little bit tough for something that's been going on. And I really internalized it. Now, like this morning, just before I came here, I went to the gym, wasn't feeling my best self, right? Like I was feeling mentally good, but physically I was not able to do what I normally would do. But I went in the sauna and I was sitting there. I listened to a little Chris Brown T-Pain, Lift the Mood, 2008 or whatever it is.
Which track?
Oh, it was that the super catchy one, Kiss Kiss, I think. Yeah, it came on the Spotify radio, and I was like, man, this is funny as hell. Because it really locked me into this era of my life, and I was like, man, okay, I'm here. I'm in this. I couldn't do the 10 out of 10 workout I normally would do today, but I got it in. I was able to move my legs because even again without going in details, like this time last year when I saw you, there was a point where I couldn't walk properly. And it was without going into all of it. And I literally, how much I walk, how important that is to me. I literally wasn't able to walk for a little bit. And every time I would then go back to that walk when I could do it pain-free, I was like, wow, this is just something I take for granted every day. And at one point in my life, I may not be able to do that. So all of that is to say, we all have lots of blessings, obviously. There's lots of tough times. But when you really internalize that, you truly can start to appreciate. you basically already have what you want, right? Like that Jerry Seinfeld quote we talked about. Remember, there was a comedian saying like, when am I going to make it? When am I going to be like you? You know, all my friends are moving on.
He's like, you're doing it already. He's like,
yeah. And he's like, man, what are you talking about? You're on stage telling jokes, you know, like, and so that to me is we're constantly looking for the new thing. We're constantly looking to improve, which there's a healthy level of that for growth. But often I feel like most people can already do that, especially people listening to this. I think the harder thing is really being content and, you know, really truly appreciating what you have.
Can you wake up, go for this walk, improve at your trade a little bit every day? It's like, that's it, right? No, dude, I love that. It's like, there's these 3 things that I can do every day. You're winning. You're right. And there is a balance, right? There's a balance between being fully content with what you have and having a little bit of ambition. Sure. But the larger lesson that I take away from what you said is, you know, you shouldn't make too much space for like what you said, where you're like, oh man, I wish my salary was X amount more. Not to say you don't deserve that, you don't chase it. It's like, just fucking don't think about it, right? It's like, do what you can on that daily basis, right? If you know, for example, in my thing, I love to write. I want to get better at writing. If I can write an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, and I know I'm improving, I know I'm cognitively getting better in one field or trying to push myself to do that, that's enough. I don't need to go like, oh man, this thing hasn't hit yet.
I didn't do the screenplay. I didn't get on this show. Like you're doing the thing that you wanted to do. And honestly, if you can find that, that's already better than most people. So I completely agree, man. That's great. I love that you've found that too, man, because a lot of people don't even figure that out.
Dude, we talked about it, right? It's like why you left Google and then why you did Charity Water and then why you're doing your own thing. You went through your own maze of realizing, okay, when you start a career, totally understood why people need to do shit they don't want, right? Like, but it looks like for yourself, and I'll say this for myself, is everything I've done, just what it does is I get to control my day, which we've talked about, and B, I'm doing less of the stuff I don't want to do. Like every year I do less of the stuff I don't want to do. I'm like pushing myself to a point where it's like, all I'm doing is the stuff I want to do. But that's why you work for yourself, right? It's like, that's literally why
you have to value that part of work so much that you stripped out all the stuff you don't want to do, because that's the best way of doing it. But a lot of people don't care enough about that, or
they prefer money, right? They're like, I guarantee yourself, which is fine, totally fine. They like the titles, they like the job, which is, that's totally fine, right? That's your internal motivation, and if you do like it, that more power to you. Is like, for example, we've talked about, we both hate meetings. I fucking hate meetings. They're the worst thing in the world.
I hate meetings I don't need to be in specifically. Okay. I don't mind. There's some meetings I'm all right
productive
with,
meetings. Yeah.
Like this is technically a meeting. I like doing it. I keep it on my calendar. But the rest of the week, I pretty much don't have, meetings for that reason. But you're right. And Trung, just to wrap that up, I'll just give a bonus one because it's kind of related. Okay. It's the same topic. It's kind of like an addendum to it, which is the happiness equation. People have their own versions of this. You've probably heard this before, but happiness is the gap between life's events and your expectations. And so to me, it comes back to that first part, like the health thing, appreciating the things that you actually have versus things you don't have. But really, if you just think about the happiest people you know, like they figured out, I don't need to constantly strive, for this thing that I'm comparing myself to everyone and, keeping up with the Joneses. And every time they get one promotion, they're like, well, if I don't get the next one in 1 year, then I messed up. And, like I said, there's a balance to all of that. But just even in my own case, at this idea of balancing expectations and the reality of things can be applied to everything. You can apply it to finances with using different words, right? Like there's the idea of lifestyle creep. Like how many people do you know that if you told them how much money they earned today, 10 years ago, they'd be like, wow, I can't believe I did that. But now they just
save zero money,
lifestyle.
Right?
Exactly.
And it's like, if you had told yourself 10 years ago how much you're making, you're like, oh my God, I'd be saving X amount every year. That's not happen, right?
Instead, we're just slanging it onto, internet coins. You know what I mean? Well, Uber Eats too, but yeah. So anyway, I just want to wrap that up by saying, I think the happiness equation, people have their own versions of that, but again, it sounds so obvious, but expectations and reality, when you go into something, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your job, your work, if you're constantly like this, if you constantly keep hearing yourself saying, oh, this isn't perfect, this isn't good. Yeah, there's a part of you that is the optimizer brain that wants to improve, which can be healthy, but there's a lot of it can become very unhealthy where you're constantly striving for perfection, which doesn't exist. And so you're constantly going to be unhappy, in my opinion. So just again, less so telling people what to do is how I've applied it to my life. Like a lot of what I focus on is, even in a bad situation like I've been in, like, okay, what do I still have? Where am I trying to get back to? What am I trying to work towards? And managing that expectation is very, very key. Otherwise, you don't make it through, you know? So
I love that,
that's
dude.
my one.
And I'll just add that knowing, I mean, you had mentioned, you didn't get the details, but obviously you've shared some things with me. And hearing from what you've shared with me and then this side of it, I totally get it, man. I totally get it's like swimming, right? Like you can't read about swimming. You need to be in it.
That's it.
You got to get in the pool, right? It's just like
completely.
No, but it's funny because
you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say is I remember when I was trying to learn how to swim, I was reading about it and watching videos. Right? It's just like.
Do you watch the Tim Ferriss thing about the freestyle?
Literally, the guy. What's it called? Total immersion swimming.
It's really good though. I've tried that. It's pretty good.
Oh, I've tried it. It's incredible.
It saves so much energy, right? Like you can just glide.
You're floating.
Very cool.
For listeners who don't know, like Google Tim Ferriss total immersion. Unfortunately, the gentleman that did that, he passed away. But the larger lesson from the total immersion is actually really relevant here. The creator of total immersion swimming, I gotta pay my respects and find his name here. But the creator of total immersion swimming, so shout out to Tim Ferriss for finding it. It was Terry Laughlin. So the interesting thing about total immersion, so here's an added bonus for listeners. You want to get into an idea, Google total immersion swimming and actually try to learn it for yourself, especially if you aren't good at swimming at all and have thought about it. The reason I say that is because the reason Terry Laughlin did total immersion swimming and the reason he created this program is because he said something he noticed with it was that he could always get better. He realized that was his thing of mastery, like how we talked about Seinfeld. You mentioned him earlier. Seinfeld's whole mastery point is to be a better stand-up comic. So when he met a young comedian that was complaining about didn't have the accolades, didn't have the money, he's like, you're getting to do the craft that you want to do. So Terry Laughlin picked swimming as kind of his craft that he wanted to master over a lifetime. And when you do that, though, every day you get a little bit better, and that can kind of be your North Star to, you wake up every day, if I can do that, I'm kind of winning. You know what I mean? But anyways, that I think that's a good wrap. Do you have any thoughts on your idea that changed in 2024?
Say that again?
Any other thoughts on the idea that changed?
No, I think we can go. I mean, honestly, I could probably keep going on with added stuff. I want to hear yours, and we'll see if we come back to some of it.
Okay, great.
Let's go for it.
So I'm going to tease out more. A couple episodes ago, when I had gone to Disneyland, I mentioned a neuroscientist named David Eagleman. And I talked about how time feels faster as you age. And I did not articulate it very well. So thankfully, I wrote a whole newsletter about it, and now I'm here to articulate it. And let me give you the top level, and then I'm going to walk you through how David Eagleman, a Stanford neuroscientist, kind of tested this idea of time goes faster as you age, but also how you can stop it. Stop the feeling of it. So I'll say, I'll describe it in first, thusly, two ways. We think about time kind of in two broad ways, humans do. It's called prospective timing and retrospective timing. So prospective is kind of forward-looking. You think, or you're in the moment of doing something, right? And I'll explain that more with one example, COVID. And before I explain the COVID example, I'll talk about retrospective. Retrospective is how you look back at an experience or something you did. Okay, so there's two. Does that make sense? You're basically experiencing time in two ways: in the moment and forward-looking, and also just
one backward-looking. Yeah,
which is like, and your life basically. At the end of the day, your life is just this formation of these retrospective memories, right? But that's your entire life. Like when you think about your life, and when your lesson, which was to say, are you happy with your day to day, or do you want certain things, or how do you lower the expectations? You're comparing it to things that have already happened, right? So COVID is a great example. Let me ask you something. Bilal, during COVID, when you're doing work from home, every day was the same, right? Just at home. Those first 6 months of shelter at home, you couldn't go anywhere. All the restaurants are closed. The days felt kind of slow, did they not? You're just like every
slowed
day,
down.
yeah, everything kind of felt slow. You're going through the same routine. You're on the Zoom calls. It's not super stimulating. So that felt actually slow in the moment, right? But when you look back, people always talk about what happened to those years, right?
Yeah,
COVID felt like you lost. It's because
everything was on pause as well, right?
Exactly.
Literally, weren't for some people.
Literally,
like you had a wedding planned and you pushed it out a whole year. You didn't have
nothing
a kid
happened, right?
In that time, like all those things.
Exactly.
Compounded.
So, and the reason why then, and you've nailed it. The reason why those past 2 years, called 2020, 2022, felt like a blur in hindsight. So in the moment, it felt super slow. Looking back, it felt like it was gone, right? And it's because you didn't create any new memories that are worth keeping. Because the older you get, the point of memory is for you to, what's the evolutionary purpose of memory? It's for us not to go to the forest where there's a bush and find a tiger or a snake, right? It's survival. Your memory system is meant for survival. So if you do nothing that's new or novel or particularly dangerous because your day is all the same, you're not forming any new memories. So that period of your life, it feels like a blur. And the interesting thing about prospective timing is also, if you're doing something that even feels fast in the moment, for example, Bilal used to say he went deep in TikTok rabbit holes, or me deep on the X timeline. I could be lost in X timeline, which is the opposite of feeling slow. I could feel like 3 hours disappeared in a blink. But here's the thing, when I look back, that doesn't change the time. The time still goes fast because I didn't do anything. It's like there was no new experience made if you're just scrolling, right?
Yeah.
So the whole point is you need to create new novel experiences to form memories around. And it gets harder and harder the older you get because there are fewer things are novel, right? When you're a child. Have you got an
example of this, Trung, how you've done it in your own life?
Well, going on random trips is really how you do it. It's going on random trips. So when I went to Disneyland, it was just a random Wednesday. And I remember every second of those 48 hours still. And it wasn't even like anything super unique. It was just different at that time, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely does. No, you're right. Because compared to your day-to-day where you're just going for the motion, and it doesn't mean your day-to-day can't be good as well. But I agree, you need that balance of like that adventure, like the novel new things that happen, the experiences.
Well, let me add one more layer to it, and you will appreciate this. So the test that David Eagleman did to kind of describe this was this Stanford neuroscientist, when he was 8 years old, he was on a construction site playing with his brother, and he fell off the roof. He almost died. And his memory of that fall it felt like that fall was 5 seconds in his head, but he measured the height. In reality, it was 0.6 seconds. So he was wondering, why is it that when people are in life or death situations, like you probably experienced this, right? Like a car comes careening off the road, your friend falls in the lake, or if it's a mother, your child falls in the lake, or if you ask a police officer in a shootout how long that shootout felt, they're like, it felt so long because they remembered every single detail, right? Does that make sense?
Time slows down in that moment.
Exactly. It's a bullet time from Matrix.
Yeah.
Do you have an example recently?
I don't know if it's that extreme. I do have one that came to mind, which I can't really talk about at the moment.
Okay. But the whole point
is but I will say, I'm trying to think, even yesterday, now I'm thinking of another one, is I went to see my cousin in the city, first time in like a year, and ended up being in Uptown, which I don't go to ever. Like I hardly go into Manhattan nowadays, right? And I ended up just being like, okay, I'm already up here. Let me just go on a little adventure where I don't usually go. So I went to Central Park, which I've obviously been to before, but I just went completely wandering in some new areas because it's so big. You don't even. And I ended up at this castle thing. I forgot what it's called. I've got it written down here, but there's like a viewpoint. And you go up and I'm like, man, I can't believe I've lived there 11 years and I've never even been to this one place. And there's all these tourists here who coming, especially with the big cameras to capture this. But yeah, that whole walk like felt way
How
longer.
salient is that memory? It's, dude.
Very
Blah.
intense. It's just,
You nailed an I mean, dude, this is literally the example that David Eagleman said. Is like, he says, he gives small examples of how to lay denser memories, like ones that you remember. And exactly what you did was a dense memory because it was new and novel, right? It wasn't, because if you did your normal route, there's no reason for your brain to relay that route again, or that experience, right? Dude, that's literally what he said. So his examples are very small. He says, brush with your left hand instead of your right. Or take a different route to work. It's just so you're not an automaton. I'll get back to the life and death experience. I really love your example because it's a demonstration of, and David Eagleman went specifically in the life or death example because the bullet time, like you said, time slows. It's so salient, right? I'll give you an example. One of my family members recently fell backwards, and I can see them falling backwards in my head right now. And it felt so slow. It felt like slow motion.
That's basically the example I said.
That's
of like
exactly
that
it, right?
Slow motion. You're like, oh my God, no, let me catch them. And you play it back sort of thing.
Exactly, dude. So, and now I'll tell you why that happens from a neurological reason. So the amygdala is an almond-shaped part of your brain. It's at the base of your brain that controls fear. And that controls all the emotions around fear, fight or flight. That gets activated in dangerous situations. You mentioned somebody falling, or you're in a new area that a little bit gets activated. You know, if you walk in a dark alleyway, it's gonna get activated, right? And that's how you lay dense memories, because that part isn't always activated. But when it is activated, it's recruiting more of your brain, your eyesight, your audio, visual, just all parts of your brain to super focus on that moment. Does that make sense? No wonder you're laying denser memories. You're recruiting all parts of like if I'm brushing my teeth, I'm not using every part of my brain, fight or flight, evolutionary survival mode, right? But when you are in that mode, everything's being recruited. So you're creating denser memories. Does that make sense?
Oh no, it makes perfect sense. And I just one follow-up to that though is I see the value in both. Like for example, when I went on that walk yesterday, I was like, this is novel and it feels great. But if my whole week was filled with that, it may be too much for me.
Stressful, way too stressful. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas today I went on my regular walk and there was a peace. It was a bit more of a chill vibe and I didn't have to think about which way I'm going. Honestly, the big thing for me is in Central Park, you get lost so quickly because all the paths, you've probably been there, right? Like the paths go all over the place. The phone map doesn't work. So you literally just get lost half the time, which is fun in its way. But if I was doing that every day, it gets a little stressful. So, but I agree with that idea of just, we do it all the time in our like teens and 20s, right? Like we always, everything's new for us, traveling for the first time.
Which is why you remember those first moments, and that's why all your homies you hung out with at the time, right? Everything's so salient. And that nostalgia
that we always, that good feeling a lot of the time comes from
because you're laying such dense memories, right? It makes so much sense. It's like it's like the first time you experienced that, and the memory is so salient, right? And
can I add one last thing as well?
Yeah,
Sorry,
of course.
The other thing is, let's say you're 18 and you have that memory for the first time. As a percentage of your life, that is a greater percentage of your life experience.
Nailed it. You nailed it.
That's why when you're 7 years old, everything is a big deal because you've only lived 7 years. So anything that happens at that phase, especially like traumatic stuff, it can make a disproportionate impact for a lot of people for the same reason as well.
And that's why when you get older, time feels to move faster, right? Because you'll say like, oh my God, I did so much less between my 30s and 40s than I did when I was 10 to 20. It's because your memory system is like the first time you played basketball, you remember the first time. You don't remember the 100 times you played between 30 and 40, right? So like your brain is, the word is cognitive misers. It's like our brain wants to be lazy because it takes up so much energy from the body, right? What is it? The brain weighs like, whatever, you know the stat, right? The brain's like 5% of your body, but uses 25% of the energy, right? And so it doesn't want to use energy. That's the entire point. So you have to kind of
it has those shortcuts.
Yeah, you have to trick it into laying denser memories. And I agree with you 100%, is you don't want to constantly have your amygdala like turned on, right? Like it's very stressful. But there's the middle ground. And the reason we're circling to something very important here, something you talk about a lot, your long walks. So there's actually a very important reason why walking in nature is such a cure for being on Zoom all day or on your phone all day, is because when you're on Zoom, you're not engaging your entire brain. When you're walking, just the fact of staying upright, having your eyesight look in the distance to find your target, you're engaging, you're smelling, you're seeing the trees, you're hearing things, you're engaging way more. So I think that's actually why, if you don't go on daily walks, like literally in nature, and all you are online, I think that's why I feel so bad. It's because you're not doing what you're evolutionarily meant to do. And going to nature for me is actually one of the, you asked me, what have I done? Is like, I do a ton more running and walking, and a lot of routes I don't know. And I actually just feel better.
Trung, that's a great addition there. You said running as well, right?
Yes.
So that's another thing. You can go on the same, I've recently been doing it because I've been working on my knee injury that I've had for 2 years. So I've finally been able to start running again lightly and going to the same route that I go to every day pretty much, right? Or some variation of it. But running felt different because you're gliding, you know. Or another one is getting a bike, and going through the park on a bike just feels completely different because I'm just, you know, literally gliding through, and that's a different feeling.
Well, you remember that first ride, right? Or the ride that you did differently.
Completely. But also I was saying that it doesn't necessarily mean you need to go travel. Like, obviously those things are great, but someone listening to this is saying, well, I can't go to Disneyland every day. I can't go to Europe every day. But you can make a slight change from a walk to a run to, you know, taking a different route, like you said, and it can make that difference, I think.
No, it's huge. And I mean, it just sounds, what's funny is you've been a big walker, what, maybe for past 2-3 years?
I think probably for longer than that. I've always liked walking since I've lived in New York, I think. Which is like 10 years. But I looked at my Fitbit stuff recently, actually, yearly, the change, and it's the last 4 or 5 years have been since 2018. So whatever's that, 6 years, I guess.
Well, my favorite, Ralph, I can throw up the screenshot, but my favorite Wikipedia entry is called forest bathing, which is the Japanese. So the Japanese, it's nature therapy, but in Japan, because they make everything sound way tighter.
Doctors literally prescribe that to people
forest
when they're
bathing.
down.
Yeah, forest bathing, right? Is like, and it has to partially do with this memory stuff because you're engaging everything, right? You're engaging. You just feel better when you do that. That's a TLDR.
Yeah, it seems so obvious, but that's the thing. It's like one of the things I had written here. I didn't write it down, but I had in my notes somewhere, so I can't even read it. It was a similar idea. Is just give me a second here.
We're getting to Huberman Lab Zone right now.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. And Rafa, we could cut down this pause.
No, here. I'll fill something in when you come to the top.
You finish it. Go on.
So the last thing I'll add about the neurological side is, so this is a bit of fuzzy math. I'm butchering the statistics here, right? And actually, you guys will laugh because I wrote this on Twitter. I wrote, when you're 40, let's say that the average person lives to 80, right? That's a ballpark in Western developed societies. I wrote, when you're 40, you've reached half of your biological life, right? But you've already probably encoded 70 to 80% of the memories that you ever will, right? That's a pretty scary thought. But based on everything that I've talked up to this point, does that feel about right?
Yeah,
approximately. Like the majority of your thoughts you'll ever have or experiences or memories have already been done. By majority, I mean like 78%. I don't mean 51, right? So you're halfway through life at 40, but you've encoded memory-wise maybe 80% you will ever do, which makes a lot of sense, right?
Which is kind of wild when you say it like that.
Which is it's
but
surreal.
Also feels in a way just to be aware of that means you can influence that second half.
Correct. The statistics mistake I made is if you made it to 40, the expectation is probably, you know what I mean? It's like you're taking the average across everybody. So Taleb just tweets, if you made it to 40, that's not half your life. I made a stats crime. You know what I mean?
Did he respond to that?
Yeah. It was hysterical. Funny. And so anyways, the last thing I'll say is this. The other aspect of like physically why you encode less memory and why then life feels shorter as you age is because like the literal like neurological pathways are degrading, right? It's like my vision The pathway it's taking is getting worse. My audio is getting worse. So the actual message that's getting to your brain from visual and audio information, it's like less salient. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah,
like
completely.
Your eyes are seeing less. You're hearing less. So you're literally forming less memories because they're less dense. So all of these
Are there
things.
other examples where it goes the other way though? I'm trying to think, because for example, up until the age of 25, is it prefrontal cortex or one of the cortex?
Yeah, the prefrontal is
haven't
underdeveloped.
fully-
The
so like, I
executive
wonder if
decision
that
making.
is one thing. Or for example, let's say you're not in great health, but you're reversing some of that Brian Johnson style,
No, but that's what I mean. Being aware and try to
yeah.
reverse these things, right? And again, you don't have to go on vacation every week, right?
Yeah.
But like Bilal, I love that Bilal brought up walking a different around Central Park, which was literally the top of my list of things that I would mention to do. So, can I ask you if that all made sense and if you could provide what was your summary of what I said? Because I want to make sure I communicated it properly.
Oh, that's hard. But no, I think you communicated it well. But what I'm taking away from it is when we get in the groove of doing the same things over and over again. We have that novelty automatically when we're younger, sometimes forced upon us as well, in a good and bad way. And I think you just need to be proactive to recultivate that in your life. And it doesn't have to be big trips, though. Those are great. But, like you said, going for a different direction, doing things slightly differently. Like there's many, many ways you can do it. I think it's just more the attitude of doing it.
I do want to add the caveat that you mentioned, jumping off of what you said. Obviously, bad things happening can also make time feel stretched, right? So this is not just a positive situation. But from our perspective, the actions you can take, you're obviously trying to do the positive stuff, right? But it's like, it's just understanding how memories are laid down and how you can do more as you age. So that's
Actually,
my TLDR.
Trung, I will add, that was great. I want to add one thing on the negative side too, which can help as well because like you said, it goes both ways. There's something that I used recently. And so when you go through like a traumatic thing or something really negative, time can be frozen in a way, right? Like and even if you talk about that, or everyone's got different versions of this, different levels. I also want to say, people use the word trauma a lot. I don't always like using that word because it's overused most of the time. I'm saying actual traumatic stuff, like you see a parent die or like whatever, like something really intense, and you can. But just by a lot of the time, they're memories, and they go in, round and round in your mind or whatever, in circles. There's a thing called the feelings wheel. Have you heard of this before? I'll just share my screen for 1 second just to.
Are we going full Huberman here?
No. It sounds, you can think whatever you want about this, but it's basically about, people can Google it, and Rafa, you can put it on the screen. In fact, so we don't need to. In fact, do you want to see it real quick, actually? Because I think it's not going to make sense otherwise. So let me just pull that up 1 second. Dude, why is my share screen gone? Here we go. Okay. So basically, it allows you to go into a deeper, more specific. Can you see my screen, Trung?
Oh, yeah. Hit me. Explain this. Explain it to the listeners.
So for people who are listening, you can Google Feelings Wheel or just go feelingswheel.com as an example. These are both positive and negative emotions in the middle: happy, sad, feeling bad, fearful, angry, whatever. Most of the time when we describe things, we're talking about the super high level. You're like, oh, I'm angry with this person. I'm anxious about this situation. I'm happy about seeing my kid do X, Y, Z. And specifically on the negative ones, when you can drill down and just process how you actually feel deeper by going into those individual things. So for example, let's see here. Fearful is a big one. You can go to the next one, anxious. The next one, overwhelmed. Right? That sounds very touchy-feely, like whatever. Especially guys, we don't do this sort of stuff. This, like I've done this fairly recently. Once you go through doing it for specific situations, you realize like just putting words around something more specifically can help process stuff. And so I know that might be going, it's not exactly related to what you're saying, but I'm saying even on the negative side of things, being able to put kind of specific words to those feelings can make a big difference.
Wait, it's called a feeling wheel?
Feelings wheel, yeah. In psychology,
wait, can you throw it back up? Can you throw up that screen?
Yeah. And if this isn't helpful, let me know. We can cut it out.
No. This is. Well, I'll tee it up by throwing in a joke here. I see the disgusted and angry part. The judgmental, embarrassed. That's me with every single investment I've made in the past 5 years.
yeah, 100%. I saw actually one of our mutual friends posted this on Twitter recently. It was like the week I'd been introduced to it, and like honestly, a lot of this stuff I was like, this is not me. Like I don't really do this sort of stuff usually. But then I went through the process, putting words to certain things, and it genuinely helped. It kind of puts it in its place. And you can look it up. There's a scientific process that happens where it basically goes from one part of the brain and kind of almost archives it. You know, and I may be describing this incorrectly. So if you're someone who knows what you're talking about, you can correct me in the comments.
We might have to come back to this for when we redo this episode with Jack in a couple months. Yeah. That will be your second one.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right, go on. Right. Trunk, do you have anything else on that, or should we move on?
No, that's a good... Let's move on to the what are change our minds about, and then we can wrap.
Do you want to go first?
No, it's up to you, buddy.
Okay, cool.
I'm teeing you up.
All right, this is related to actually something you mentioned earlier on the swimming, right? So one of the principles that I've lived my life by for a long time and still subscribe to is the 80-20 rule, right? Which generally, and for most people, probably know what that is, but Pareto's law or the 80-20 rule is generally a way of saying 20% of the actions result in 80% of the benefits or results. And normally when I'm looking at work specifically for a long time, like what I'm doing right now, I will spend 20% of my time doing what previously may have taken me 100% of the time. Because as you learn something in more detail, you can get rid of the distractions and go to the most impactful parts of it and be more efficient or effective in that work. So the swimming example is a great one of that. That's what Tim Ferriss does basically with everything, right? He's trying to look at how can I take this big complicated process and simplify it. And the total immersion swimming is exactly that. He identified a few key leverage points, focused on those, and forgot about the distractions and said, let's not worry about that. So that is all to say, I still think there's a lot of value in that. And most of my life I've lived like that. Now, what I'll say is, in the last probably couple years, I've gone on to the other side too and said, well, that's not always the case. Sometimes you can over-optimize, and specifically, there's certain work even that should be done for its own sake. So, for example, creative work. If you're constantly just looking for the shortcut of creative work, you can make yourself more efficient and more effective. Like, that's great. But if you're constantly having that mindset where you're like, I need to find the shortcut, you're not going to, like, the work is the point, like what we said.
Creative work shouldn't be everything is a shortcut, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's, you know, the joy of it was the point of you doing it. And if you constantly just like, oh, I found a quicker way to create the best meme or create the best writing, you know, there's an art in that too. But I think personally, when you actually find the joy of creative work, and that is the purpose of it, you just want to do more of it versus I need to find a shortcut. The second example I'll give, and this is another quote here, is a fit body, a calm mind, a house full of love. These things cannot be bought. They must be earned.
Naval.
Right. Naval, yeah. And so, and I know we're going full Naval here, but it's a good tie-in to what I'm talking about here, because the key word here is they must be earned, right? Look at those examples: a fit body, calm mind, house full of love. Replace that with whatever you want, like a relationship, fulfilling, whatever, a good family home, whatever. A fit body. We talk about Goggins all the time, yeah? Right? Goggins is not 80-20 in his workouts, is he? You know what I mean? And obviously, I'm joking here, like he's overboard. No one should follow what he's doing. But the point here is, man, when you're doing the workout, like I go and I'll do an hour 15, right? If I'm trying to do that in 20 minutes, I'm missing out on a lot of the benefits. You can be more efficient with your workout, and sometimes you need to do that.
The high interval training.
Whatever it is, right? You do compound moves instead of the accessory, whatever you want to do. But the point here is the benefit you got from the mental strengthening of that workout is not being replicated in the 80-20 version of it. And so that's what I'm saying. Both of these are important. You can do 80-20 for a lot of things, but over time, I've really kind of changed my mind on the fact that I don't want to do that all the time. And there's specifically creative work and those three things. like your relationship, your house, right? That should not be aided. You don't want a shortcut to
you're not
constantly
Pareto.
shortcut.
You're not Pareto principling your main
now,
relationships.
or like your kids is a good example, right? Like you with your kids, with your son, right? You're not being like, oh, I need a shortcut to, once in a while you're giving him the iPad, right? Like that's fine.
You're
that's
not having a shortcut to spend time with him, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole purpose is the joy of being with your kid, him growing, like that. Like you're not trying to 80-20 it. So that's just.
So funny. I just want to say when you talk about Goggins and you're like, don't do that. You know what came in my head? I don't know if you remember a couple of years back, he's talking about one of his ultras, his 200-mile races. I think he broke his fibia or whatever your calf,
something
the bone on
wild,
the calf. He duct taped it and then did like the last 20 kilometers.
That's why you had a grin, because I could see your face. Yeah, I think it was the one where you did the relay, no?
Yeah,
it was like a relay race where everyone
broke the bone on his shin and then duct
do you know what it was?
it.
There was a relay race where there was 4 people doing the race.
You
pass it on 24 hours. But he did the relay race on his own. So that it was just him. He was the 4 people. That's why he broke his leg and broke his foot. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so that was my one. So I'll let you go on with your one now. But yeah, unless
so
you had
just
any
to summarize,
questions or anything on
you
that.
changed your mind on where to apply the Pareto.
That's it.
Don't Pareto
and
everything.
also, it may not be the wrong goal often.
Okay. I like
that's
that.
It.
The one I would say, and this one would be pretty short, but it's something we always talk about here, is like, should you create content? And I think a lot of our talk on NAA, we obviously lean, and Jack always brings this up, right? Is like, people ask us about advice for XYZ, and our answer is always like, start a newsletter, start a Shopify store. That's like the default answer. I think what I've changed my mind on is, I think everybody should write 1 or 2 pieces of their expertise. I think that's for sure. What I'm changing my mind on is how many people should actually be super active online. Because I think you're a great example of this, because you've done both and you've talked about it. You've been tried to be mini thread guy on Twitter. You've also been for the last couple of years, like zero engagement.
I basically don't post. Even on Instagram, I think I post like 6 years ago or something. I
think there's just this siren call and this magnetism of people like wanting to get online to, go viral or have their content ready, which is, if you have something to say, 100%.
Definitely.
Share it. And I think everybody should write, period. Similar to, in the same vein as you talk about the feeling wheel, when you verbalize things, it just does change, right?
That's the thing, to clarify. I write every day still, but I don't write.
You don't have to put it out.
Yeah.
So I'd say what it goes back to is, and I think we have to talk about this, if you want to put stuff online and on the internet for the world, but it's not for like the reasons Bilal set out to get better at writing, or like you want to get these ideas out, like I would actually dissuade people from doing that, because it goes back to something we have talked about, in the sense of you can thread boy your way. The algo is tough to kind of predict at this point. You can do that, but I think you'll be attracting kind of the wrong people. You want to be reading your stuff, and it kind of goes back to the Seinfeld example with the comedian that was upset about his life. He's like, "Oh, I'm not getting the recognition, I'm not getting the money." He's like, "Are you doing what you want to do?" And if you do want to share a ton of ideas, you should be doing that. But I don't think. And I get asked all the time. And I used to be almost across the board, like, you should definitely do it.
Yeah.
Like the optionality of having a social presence is massive. But also, if you're going to half-ass it, and half-ass I mean like, most people are busy. Like, they don't have time to do that, right?
Yeah, you got to commit.
Yeah, you got to commit. But I think we'll say, if you commit hard for a minimum of a year, you will get results. That's just the reality. And you get closer to finding. People love saying finding your tribe. You're kind of putting a lighthouse out there. But I'd say I'd probably change my mind on a bit of how much people should be just actively trying to quote unquote like build an audience or put stuff out there.
That's a good
I think
point.
I think you should write great stuff, but I don't think anyone ever should just be going out there to build an audience for the sake of building one. Because you're relying on social platforms a lot, and as we all know, these things are super fickle. And I also think that it's just, listen, I got brain damage, people. Like, the amount that I'm on, it's completely unhealthy, and I can tell you the other side of it too. It's not necessarily.
And I'll say, Trung, you're because you put out lots of positive stuff, right? So you're not out there baiting people, no names mentioned, but you're not trying to get a reaction. Yeah, less bait. You bait people in a different way, like the funny way, like not.
Yeah.
And so your comments are probably fairly positive, right? I'm sure you still get it once in a while, like everyone does.
Every now and then I'll have to throw some blows, but it's very.
Yeah, once in a while, like just even. Man, like everything we talk about in NA, right? Like we're not talking about controversial stuff really. And we're not talking about, most of the time, once in a while we'll say something a bit stupid, but that's part of the process. Even we'll get some ridiculous comments once in a while. And you might even see them, but I see them on, especially clips. And it's normally people who don't watch the show, right? So it's like it's on TikTok, it's on some random show, platform. And they're like, what is he even saying? Or like, or like just something that can really, we have thick skin because that's not even that bad. And we've been doing it for a while where we put stuff out, and you can't put stuff out, whether it's Twitter or podcast or anything, and do it consistently if you're constantly worried about what people are going to say, right?
Insane.
You literally can't do it.
I mean,
you wouldn't be able to do it.
Bilal nailed it because it's actually YouTube shorts. People go read some of these YouTube short comments.
It's so
and
funny.
Actually, there's been a couple where... So our super producer Rafa made great clips, but a few of them, the way he edited it, you couldn't see Bilal or Jack because he's showing like the graphics, and then I'm talking, and then some guy will just be like, bro, are you just like talking into
yourself? Yeah. No, because there are those people that create fake podcast clips.
Oh, they're amazing. I mean, they're hilarious though, right?
Yeah.
It's because
like that guy we shared recently,
Andrew Hamilton, the comedian. Oh my God, dude!
Good, yeah.
For people who don't know,
he's sleeping with his wife. That one, very funny.
He goes, "Do you think Bezos does his Moses own lawn? You think Zuck's doing his laundry?"
So good, but no, that's a good one overall. So, and Trung, specifically to add to yours, I agree with yours. And secondly, I think there was a trend of this very 2020, 2021. Of building an audience, and I've interviewed how many people that have done that on Creator Lab and shared how you do it if you want to do it. I'm a fan of it if it makes sense. But I think there was this dichotomy where people were saying, you must do this. Like if you want, even business wise, so like if you want to build a business, you have to do this. And I strongly disagree with that. Like I think you need to eventually create some sort of content to get people to come to your site, but to primarily do it is very specific.
I mean, as an example, you could, instead of just being on social all day, like just make anchor content that ranks really high SEO, right? That would be way more valuable.
Or honestly, even I'm not saying everyone should do what I do, but I don't create content about my main business pretty much, right? And so obviously,
that's true.
I've waited, and I hardly even talk about it, right? And I kind of purposely
you have other channels that are working very well.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think with a lot of people, it's kind of like buying a house. Like this is a bit of a random tangent, but people will have two reasons for buying a house because they want to live in their own house and they want to own it, but they also say it's a good investment. Yeah, and they say I don't want to throw money away. And often you put these two goals in one. And sometimes it's correct, but a lot of the time it's not. Similarly, a lot of people want to make a business and they also kind of want to be famous or feel recognized.
Yes.
Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like we create content, like there's a part of us that has that, of course, right? But they kind of use one for the other goal, and they're like, no, but I have to do this because it's my business and everyone says I need to do it. But in reality, you get that little dopamine hit because someone's like, hey, I listened to your podcast or I've read that thread, and you get that little ego boost, right? And so
it's pretty nice.
It's pretty nice. Or you get recognized in the street and you're like, yo, this is
wild. I'll be honest. The recognized in the streets is a little bit weird. If I'm being honest.
That is a little. Well, also sometimes people do some funny. People say some funny stuff. Also, podcast is funny because people listen to podcasts for a long time, right?
Yeah,
and we know, like, there's a decent number
total
of people
parasocial, right? Which is
a million
fine.
people a week, right?
Yeah.
So you don't even think, you're like, oh, no one listens to it, right? But then once in a while, you meet people, you're like, oh, they know more about my life than I do something because I've forgotten right? I mentioned stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of a funny little weird thing that happens too. Anyway, that's a long way of saying I do like that idea. I think like all these things, there's nuance. You don't have to all go make a newsletter. It's very crowded in its own way. And if you want to do it for, you know, the skill and sharing stuff, I think that's phenomenal. Like you
Do
should
Anchor,
that.
right? I highly suggest people do, if you have something that you wanted to write and you, we'll have it on it.
That
Well,
anchor piece, you mean? Like those
yeah,
key,
it's like
yeah.
people might not see it today, but you have it and they might read it in 2-3 years or somebody might, you just never know, right? That's
a lot
the
of it
main
is
one.
for yourself. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like just by writing it, you organize your own thoughts.
Yeah,
So I think that's
think through
worth
the
it.
top ideas.
All right, cool. Should we wrap it there, Trung, or did you have anything else?
No, that was perfect,
Do you
man.
got a bonus, or should we cut it?
No bonus, man. That was a
And
media.
I found the thing I wanted to mention earlier, that it's not easy, but it's simple. That was the phrase that was coming off the tip of my tongue, where a lot of the time you're overcomplicating it. Most of us know how to do a lot of these things. Like you said, you spend a year creating content and you really put your head down. That's actually simple, but it's not easy. Like to actually stick to doing it is very difficult.
Yep.
So that was
that
thing I had in my head there. All right, we'll save a few. I've got a few more, but I can save them for another. We'll do this again in the future. So this is a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoy that, and let us know what you think of this one. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate all the support, spreading the word. And let us know what you think of this one. This is not a regular episode, so appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the summer.
Yeah, have a
We'll
great
see you
summer,
next
man.
week.
Or having a great summer, because
Yeah,
I know this
100%.
bad boy is
We already
probably
in summer.
mid-July at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.